All right, let's talk about digestion and improving digestion. So, I don't know if you really realize this fully or not, but your digestion process actually starts in your mouth. And it actually even starts earlier than that. The minute you see food and smell food, those signals to your brain actually start the process right then and there, believe it or not. That's why sometimes your mouth can start watering when you see something that's really good. Like, it is a legit thing. Your pancreas actually does subtly start generating enzymes. Your saliva does start generating, and your system starts to get ready to receive food. And then when you put food in, it's not a lot, but a little bit. And then when you put food in your mouth, the digestion process starts. The enzymes start breaking down that food right away in terms of amylase, which is an enzyme that breaks down carbohydrates specifically. Your mouth produces that, and your mouth also produces a small amount of lipase, which breaks down fat. So it's an enzyme that breaks down fat. So that's the beginning. And one thing that is really critical to having the whole thing not train wreck is that you chew enough. Most of us in our busy life do not chew our food enough. And if you don't do that, then that means you leave a lot more up to the stomach to handle, which means it takes a lot more stomach acid and a lot more enzymes to break down the food, and it can put a lot of stress on your stomach, and it can result in your digestion, and it can result in you not properly breaking down food. And it can start a cascade of problems. So you actually do want to chew your food and chew it well. The datum that I have is it's good to chew between 18 and 30 times. Now, I don't know that you have to go overboard on this. It can kind of sound a little bit gross to even talk about it, but honestly, try it. It will actually help your digestion a lot to start chewing more and take the time to chew. It will make the rest of the process easier. And that also means taking smaller bites, because you're going to want to feel like swallowing if you take a lot of food in, and you won't necessarily be able to properly fully chew everything. So try taking smaller bites, chew right away. Another thing you should know is your mouth does absorb certain things straight into the bloodstream to some degree. So, for example, if you were to take nanomagnesium, for example, put it in your mouth and hold it in your mouth, you actually do sublingually under your tongue absorb stuff right into the bloodstream. Alcohol, same thing. It actually absorbs straight into the bloodstream the minute you put it in your mouth. Now, not all of it. Same with magnesium. It's not that your mouth absorbs all of it, but it does start absorbing in the mouth right away. And that goes straight to the bloodstream. Whereas anything that goes into your, like anything you swallow, goes into your stomach, it doesn't, a little bit of it gets absorbed there. And then some things do, not everything at all. And then the rest of it passes to your small intestines, where most of your food is actually absorbed. Most of your nutrients, minerals, etc. are absorbed in the small intestines. But your stomach does absorb a little bit too. The things that do not get absorbed in the mouth and do not get absorbed in the stomach are proteins. So believe it or not, you shouldn't actually be absorbing protein at all as a particle. If you are, there's a problem. If you are, you have what's called leaky gut. Protein is way too big, and your body should not be absorbing protein. What actually happens is protein gets broken down in your stomach by the stomach acid to some degree, and then it goes into your small intestine. And your small intestines, using enzymes that it gets from the pancreas, then break protein down even more into peptides, small peptides, and amino acids. So if you've ever heard of amino acids, that's what we're talking about. Amino acids are the building blocks that make proteins, but they make more than just proteins. Amino acids are critical for hormones, for enzymes, for proteins, and we're not just talking about muscle. Like, these things are used in in pretty much every function and across the boards in your body. So they're super, super critical. It's not just, muscle building, okay? We're talking about vital functions, detox, processing food, making energy. Like you need amino acids for everything. So when you eat food and don't chew it properly, and it goes to your stomach and you're low on stomach acid, and then it goes to your intestines and you're low on enzymes and you don't have a good microbiome, all of this is going to result in you not absorbing and not getting a good amount of protein, not absorbing the amino acids from what you eat, not absorbing the nutrients from what you eat. So we can put a lot of attention on buying really good quality food, but I personally experienced this. If your digestion is not good and you're not actually absorbing, you will be deficient and you will be like, I don't get it. I eat really clean and really good food, whole food, lots of protein, plenty of vegetables, and yet I'm low on all these essential things that I need, essential nutrients. Well, the why for me was a lack of pancreatic enzymes. And the why for that seems to be stress and heavy metal burden and toxins, which have been disrupting my digestive system. And I was like, it's amazing when you actually get to the root cause of the problem, because like suddenly that opens the door to a handling, because no matter how clean I ate and no matter how much I supplemented and did everything else, like I'm still deficient in things. And by the way, as another datum, if you have any digestive problems at all, you are not absorbing. You are having an absorption problem to one degree or another. So just know that it's not even a question. Like if you are having bloating, gas, GERD, stomach pains, you name it, then there is a problem with absorption, and you are not going to be getting the full benefit of any supplements you're taking. You're not going to be getting the full benefit of the high quality foods you're eating. And if you're now adding to that, eating bad things and chemicals and toxins, you are literally just making it 100 times worse for your system and your body to handle. Your body can't detox properly, etc., etc. So it can have a chain reaction. All right, so chew your food. The other thing I wanted to say is if you actually start your meal and before the meal you eat bitters or arugula or rocket, depending on where you are, or something bitter, the dandelion root, for example, or radicchio, which is bitter. If you eat that first and you take some vinegar, like apple cider vinegar, for example, drink some of that first. Not a lot of water. You don't want to actually drink, not to deviate right here, but you actually don't want to drink a lot while you're eating, because you actually dilute your enzymes and your stomach acid as a datum. So it's actually not a good idea to drink a giant drink and eat, because you're just working against your stomach and your digestion. But if you start your meal with a bit of apple cider vinegar, and it must be diluted, but like, let's say 10 minutes before you're going to eat, 15 minutes before you eat, drink some apple cider vinegar. It will prime your system. It will kick your system. It actually generates, apple cider vinegar specifically triggers the liver to start producing bile, and it triggers your system to start going. Same with bitters or arugula and rocket, for example, or radicchio, something bitter. That starts getting bile flow going and stuff. So that can actually help a lot with getting your system ready to receive food. So that's another little trick you can do. And then the other thing you can do is, if you are still having problems, a lot of people are low in stomach acid, and a lot of people are also low in enzymes or enzymes. So you can be low on both or one or the other. The first thing you should try to do is stomach acid. The reason I say that is because stomach acid is actually what triggers your pancreas and other things to produce the enzymes you need to break down protein. So at your stomach specifically too, your stomach produces pepsin, which is an enzyme that breaks down protein. So the stomach produces enzymes that break down protein. Your mouth produces enzymes that break down carbohydrates and fats, and your small intestine, your pancreas actually, releases enzymes into the small intestine to break down fat, protein, and carbs as well. So you have enzymes being produced at multiple points in your system. And in the stomach acid is the thing that triggers the release of pepsin and other enzymes to break down things. So you want to have a good amount of stomach acid. And as we get older, we have less. And if we have other toxic things going on and stress and other things, that is actually going to reduce our stomach acid. Having a lot of stress in your life actually reduces your stomach acid production. All these things work against you. So the first thing I would suggest is HCl, hydrochloric acid, to increase your stomach acid. The next thing I would do if that doesn't resolve it is I would look for a full spectrum good enzyme. And the best thing you can actually do is get your stomach and your levels checked, okay? But barring that, let's say you don't have the money to spend on a test, I would suggest taking a full spectrum enzyme supplement that has enzymes to break down lipase, fats, lipase, and protease, which breaks down protein, and amylase, which breaks down carbs. You want like a complete enzyme, if you will, that will break down all three, because unless you've tested, you don't really know which ones you're low on. Another way you can kind of get an idea is if you're feeling really heavy after you eat protein, okay, that's probably you're lacking protein enzymes. If you're really feeling really heavy after carbs, that's probably a carb enzyme, right? If you're feeling really heavy on after eating fatty meals, that could be a combination of bile problems, meaning you're not having enough bile flow or your liver's not producing enough bile, or it could be an enzyme problem in your pancreas and in terms of producing the enzymes needed to break down fat. So there's a couple ways this can go, and that's why I personally think the best way is to test. But that will help you if you want an immediate place to look. And last but not least, the other thing that's very critical to all of this is your microbiome. And you've heard this many times, I'm sure. But your microbiome actually produce enzymes themselves that help you break down fiber, and they help you break down food too. So you do want to make sure that you have a good microbiome and a healthy balance of good microbiome. And this is an area that we really don't know everything on at all. And they have been, only in the last 10 years or so, or I guess decade or so, has this even really become a subject that's really being looked into and opening the doors to really understanding how important it is and how much it benefits the human body. But we do know that there's specific probiotics that are very beneficial, and that your microbiome is very crucial to your immune system and your gut defense and everything else. And it also is very important to keeping the mucosal layer in your intestines very tight and very thick and adequately thick, I should say, and keeping the junctions in your stomach, your small intestine, sealed. It's crucial. And like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, if you are assimilating proteins directly in your bloodstream from your stomach, you got a major problem with gut leak, and you have a major problem with your system, and that's where you get toxins into your system. And that's what triggers autoimmune conditions, because your immune system is constantly patrolling your body. And they see this protein come in, and this protein looks similar to your protein. I mean, a lot of the animal proteins we eat do look similar to our own proteins. And they flag it as an enemy. And then before you know it, they flag your body parts as an enemy too, your own proteins as an enemy. And that's where you can get confusion with the immune system and autoimmune, where the immune system starts flagging yourself and attacking yourself. So it's really a problem, and it's really serious. So you definitely want to make sure you protect your microbiome, and you don't do things that are going to ruin that mucosal layer and disrupt your microbiome, which means you don't want to eat heavy processed foods. You don't want to eat processed foods. You don't want to eat seed oils. and vegetable oils. Now, you might have heard that seed oils in and themselves are not a problem. There's debate on this, okay? Well, the datum is heated seed oils are a problem. Okay, who eats cold pressed seed oils? I mean, most of the time people are cooking with them. So it's still a good rule of thumb to stay away from seed oils. Also, they need to be cold pressed and fresh because they do go rancid. They don't have a long shelf life. So again, you might as well just take it as a rule of thumb to stay away from them because they are toxic and they do create lots of problems. They're very oxidating. And you don't want to do sugars. A lot of sugars will absolutely mess up your microbiome and cause inflammation. And unfortunately, alcohol too is a big contributing factor to ruining the mucosal layer and creating an imbalance in your microbiome. Advil, ibuprofen, these things are like a bomb going off in your stomach, and they will create problems with the mucosal layer. Even one dose of it will create problems with the mucosal layer in your gut. This is a very known datum. So you want to avoid that at all costs as much as you can. It seems to be one that is very not actually realize how bad it is. Most people don't realize it's really, really bad for your microbiome in your gut. Advil and ibuprofen are. So yeah, you want to protect your microbiome and you want to do everything you can to keep it in good balance. And that's also why you need to feed your microbiome. And that's why fiber is actually more important than some people realize. And the right kind of fiber too. Psyllium husk. If you're constipated or you're having slow motility and you take psyllium husk, I mean, that's like adding more cars to a heavy traffic. Like, you're going to create problems for yourself. So there's actually more gentle fibers, and there's soluble and insoluble, and I could go into all that here too, but you do need a balance of both. So you need a balance of soluble and insoluble. Soluble essentially means it can be assimilated and used. It's more soft, if you will. It accumulates water better and stuff, and insoluble is not assimilable at all. So it just kind of passes right through. But you actually need both fibers because they both contribute to your microbiome and your digestion. And fiber helps pull toxins out. So it's actually also got another benefit. And it also works with your bile to pull toxins out as well and to pull cholesterol out. So that's how your body actually gets rid of cholesterol. And it's one aspect to how your body manages your cholesterol levels. So fun fact for you on bile and fiber. They're very important and work together on keeping your system cleaned out, if you will. So hopefully I've given you some information that can help you if you're having stomach problems, if you're having gut issues, if you're having, digestion problems. I wanted to kind of give you a concept of how the digestive system works together and how they relate to each other. That was really the purpose of this video. Of course, there's a million things I could go into in terms of like things you can take to help with digestion, and peppermint and fennel, and there's all kinds of things you can do to help certain problems with this whole system. But I wanted to kind of give you a general concept of where to look if you're having digestive problems. The other thing that is important to mention here is, even if you have all that and everything I said perfect, if you have a lot of mold, heavy toxins, or a lot of metals, that's going to cause a lot of inflammation. And if you're exposing yourself in some way to all that, that's going to cause a lot of inflammation, and that in and of itself can mess up your digestion. So if you've got all those basics in and you're still having a lot of issues, you kind of need to pull out. And that's something, and look at the bigger picture of what's happening with your toxic load and everything else. And that's one thing I've also realized in my health journey, is you can get too microscopic on trying to address a symptom or a problem, like your thyroid's a problem, and you keep going at the thyroid. And this is something I made a mistake on. I kept trying to address my thyroid and my Hashimoto's, and it was very thyroid oriented, and all my healings were very thyroid oriented, and I was getting sicker, and I was getting sicker, and I was getting sicker. And I was like, I don't get it. My thyroid levels are good, my antibodies have come down, and yet I'm still feeling horrible. I'm still having tachycardia. I'm still like, it's getting worse, not better. Like, this makes no sense. And then when I came here for my handling and we pulled out and we actually tested me on so many things, even though it was expensive, it's expensive to do a lot of testing, it paid off in spades, because now I'm not going to go shooting in the dark and chasing up the wrong tree, trying to handle the out points and the things coming up, but actually now I can address the source of all this trouble and finally handle it. And ever since I've started the handlings, I started in September 16, is when I actually started some of the supplement protocols for my treatment and stuff based on my test. And I've been now working at it for a good few months. And now the last 2 weeks, I've been doing massive detox and handling. And it's made so much of a difference. And I know I'm on the right thing because it's working and it's actually now resolving, whereas it wasn't resolving before. So that's why I wanted to share this with you. I feel like, you know, you guys helped me get here. You guys helped me to do this. And now I want to give back by sharing with you what I'm finding, what's helping, what's handling it, so that hopefully I can help someone out there too to do the same thing, and I can help you guys in your own healing journeys. All right, thank you. Over and out. Mwah. Love you guys.